It's a message that could save lives. If you're a parent watching this at home with a teen or a brand new driver, you'll want to hear Elene Bratton's story. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Tell us here about your little boy.
Jamie was a 5-year-old when he passed away, and he was the kind of kid that would light up the room when he came in. He was so full of energy and beauty, and he would always come up. Everyone I know always says he's their favorite hugger still. Like, he'd just come over and he would just hug you, or he'd say, "What's your name?" "My name is Jamie." "What's your name?" He was just very loving, outgoing. He was going to Language Academy, learning Spanish. He was a very community active kid in our neighborhood in Azalea Park. He went on crime walks and, of course, all the famous parties that we have and trash pickups. He was just the kind of person that, you know, I know would grow into a very productive adult and would have loved life. He just loved life. I can say that by him. He loved life.
And can you tell us, bring us back to the day that changed your life, your sister's life?
Well, I work, and I was working that evening, and I got off. I had a break in work, and I saw my cell phone, and it was like, you know, like literally hundreds of calls, and I called back, and it was Children's Hospital, and I called there, and I talked to a social worker. As soon as I talked to a social worker, I knew something was wrong. And they told me to get to the hospital, but they wouldn't tell me what was wrong. And I remember driving to the hospital, I remember thinking, I hope his face is okay. Because if you see his face, you'll see how beautiful it is. And I got there, and of course, much more was going on than just a small accident. He had been a very serious accident. He had not been able to get out of the car. They took him 40 minutes to get him out of the car with the jaws of life, and then they life flighted him to Rady's Children's Hospital, where they tried to save his life. But when I walked into the room and I saw him on all those machines, I knew he wasn't there. And we had to make that decision to let him go, which was the hardest decision of my life. And I made that decision. And ever since then, Jamie has been giving through Jamie's Joy. His first act of giving was to give part of himself, his retinas and his corneas. That's the only part that could still be used in his life sharing. And he did that, and since then we've been carrying on his legacy of love, joy, peace, and connection through Jamie's Joy. And we do all types of things in our neighborhood, from service projects to fundraisers to cleanups to feeding the homeless, all to honor his life and legacy, because he was just that special of a person. And then, of course, we had to go through our own healing journey at that time. It's been 13 years, but you can see the tears can be as fresh as it was just yesterday. Because when you lose a child, your life is never, ever the same, no matter how much you do to try to honor that person or try to continue on his legacy in your own life or just try to heal and be a good person, which we've done all that. It still stays with you, and it's still something that can very easily just ruin your day. It definitely changes your life in a way that doesn't feel like it ever is going to be the same.
And it was a simple mistake.
It was a simple mistake. I knew when the officer talked to me, he said there's only really 4 ways people have car accidents. Something goes wrong with their car, something goes wrong with them medically, there's distracted driving, or they're under the influence. We had basically ruled out at least 3 of those. And so in my heart, I knew it was distracted driving. And I knew that I had to, from that moment, decide to forgive my sister, because my sister was driving the car. And I knew that she would never do anything on purpose to hurt Jamie. And that could happen to anyone, because all of us were talking on the phone. It wasn't even illegal at that time. All of us we didn't have texting so much then, but we were doing stuff to be distracted. And I wasn't aware of that. I never thought of that. I mean, you hear about people dying in crashes, but I never thought that would happen. Every crash I had was a small fender bender, you know? So when I figured that out, that's part of my campaign, as part of my Jamie's legacy, is to talk about how distracted driving can destroy your life, can cause you pain forever, can change everything that you know, and cause deep, need for healing. But that if you don't take that phone call, you don't text while you drive, you don't put on your makeup, you don't read a map, you don't do whatever else. People are so used to driving, they think that you can do anything and drive, and it's not true. You have to be focused on the road when you drive. And so, I did forgive my sister. I feel like it was something that could happen to anybody, but that's something I could help talk about, is stop that from happening to other families. I never want to have another family have to go through what we've gone through.
And your sister is with you here today.
She
Angie,
is.
I know it's been more than a decade now, the healing process, knowing that it was a mistake, a simple, quick mistake. How have you been dealing with that?
There's not a day that goes by that I don't go through that April 24th, 2002 and wonder what the hell happened? What went wrong? I have been able to narrow it down to a few actions, a few details. And what I've come up with is I do recall a certain, I can remember leaning down, I remember my cell phone. This is before texting, before I even knew how to text message. It was I was trying to answer a phone call, and I remember listening to this person's message, and I remember the person's name, and I just remember trying to get that phone call, and then that's pretty much it. And I'm in the hospital waking up going, what happened to me? And they're going, I don't know, you tell us.
It's been 13 years, and I can still see it's hard for both of you to grasp, I guess, what happened.
Yeah.
And how are you doing today?
I am. I'm putting myself back together. I've beat myself up for years. I went through some drug and alcohol addiction. I've felt a huge, enormous survivor's guilt, and why not me? Why him? Why not me? And I felt, as if I'd killed one of God's angels, and I had all this huge shame, but for something that I could not remember what had happened or what I'd done. I just knew that I was hugely ashamed for something that I didn't know what it was. But I am now in a 12-step self-help program that I've been in for a little over a year, and working on addressing that self-destructive behavior, and I'm working on forgiving myself, because it's the only way. That's the only way that this is going to work itself out, and that's the only way to truly honor him, because we both don't have to die from this.
And I want to turn it right now to San Diego police officer Emilio Ramirez. You and other patrol officers, you're on the roads every day. This accident happened more than a decade ago when cell phones weren't even as common. What are some of the common mistakes that you see teenagers mostly make? I know that we're focusing on teenagers this week.
The primary cause are generally cell phone usage, whether it be using their GPS or on a cell phone call or texting, or it could be other occupants in the vehicle. And those are the things that distract a young driver, because they don't have the experience or skill to be able to operate the vehicle and be able to focus. You shouldn't be doing it to begin with, but they lack skill and the ability to multitask at such a young age.
And teenagers often think, I can get away with things, but what consequences could they face if they are caught driving distracted?
Well, as a young teen driver with a provisional license, you face several consequences. One, the citation, the increased insurance for your parents, because now you'll become a liability, the point system. But not only that, your parents can take away that provisional license. The courts can as well, but your parents can say, hey, I don't feel that you're responsible enough, and take that license away from them. But the worst scenario, they can possibly hurt or harm someone or themselves.
And unfortunately, we see that here with the family. What types of resources here with San Diego Police Department do parents, do teenagers have if they want a little bit of guidance with a new driver in their home?
Well, with San Diego, we have the, even though it's directed to both, we have the Teen Alcohol Awareness Program, which deals with being distracted as well as the alcohol influence or drug influence. And we try to alert the young drivers of the things that are out there, the dangers that are out there, the cell phones, the passengers in your vehicle, or peer pressure, whichever you may have. And that's what we deal with in San Diego. But you also have different divisions that have your community resource officers that are available to the parents, the community, that can go out and help those. You have other agencies that have programs that they have. It's like CHP, which has the Start Smart program. And those are those are just a few resources that we have available.
All right, and Elene, I want to end with you. You've unfortunately had to live with the consequences of distracted driving. For parents, for teenagers watching this or seeing this online, what's the last message that you want to share?
My son would actually be 19 today, so he would be a teenager. And I do want to say to teenagers in general, specifically, that you don't have to. You can wait. I know you're in a rush. I know everything's happening now. It's all fun and exciting, but it can wait because your life is more important than any phone call, any text, or anything else that you have to do except drive.
I want to thank all of you, all three of you, so much for being here. I'm Melissa Masiha with this week's San Diego Newsmakers. I'll be back next week.